Hello and welcome to the SoundLab podcast interviews, unedited on today's show interviews from Jack and Jack, Mike Batt, Katlia and Cole Gerard, plus we throw back to Download Festival 2017 to chat to Sum 41. So shall we crack on and play you our first interview from Jack and Jack, who are slowly releasing brand new music. So Jack and Jack, how are you?
We're great.
Amazing. Thanks for having us on, Jim. Appreciate you.
Pleasure is all mine. So we've been playing a new single of yours called Losing You. Tell us a bit about the single.
Well, first off, thanks for playing it.
Yeah,
we appreciate that. And this single, it was more of like a slow tempo. We kind of were calling it a soft single for this upcoming project, Symbiosis. And we kind of wanted to tap into more of our somber Jack and Jack side. And I don't know, it's sort of like a heart tugger. It's about knowing that when you leave somebody, it's going to be better once you get out of this situation, but just how difficult that can be to do sometimes, you know?
Well said.
Yeah, and I don't know, is there anything else you want to add about it?
No, I mean, not specifically about the song, but kind of touching on what Johnson said about it being a soft single. You know, our fans have been so patient with us over the years, and, we've just kind of gotten back into releasing music over the last 12 to 18 months, putting out our second album last year, and we just wanted to kind of like ease them back into the release process because we haven't released since the album. So 8 months had passed, and we were like, you know what, let's put out this chill vibe, Losing You.
Nice sing-along vibe.
And then let's hit them over the head in April with some big stuff. So we got a lot of cool singles coming out the rest of the year.
Yeah, awesome. How's the music sounding? The stuff that's on its way as well.
I mean, it is. We're so excited about it, and it's. I would say if I had to put a label on it, it's like, definitely in the pop lane, but very true to who we are at the same time. And it's just great. It's very exciting for us because we're independent for the first time in 7 or 8 years. So
yeah, and I think another fun thing about this project that we've been kind of bouncing around the idea of is having not just all Jack and Jack songs on here. They're all going to be under the Jack and Jack umbrella and, listed under the album as Jack and Jack. But the second single is going to be a more G-centric single where like I was producing behind the scenes and, helped write it, but it's just going to be him singing on it. And then the third single is going to be a more J-heavy single. And so we kind of wanted to have, instead of an A-side, B-side, a J-side, a G-side, and then the Jack and Jack side, which will be the vast majority of the project. But we wanted to give our, I guess, more individual character to the project as well. So, that's what we're really excited about on this. And, yeah, it's going to be a nice, slow release of singles up until the end of the year when the whole project gets unveiled. And we just want to feed the fans, after a lot of years of no music. We want to stay consistent. We made a vow to them and to ourselves to never take our foot off the gas again, after waiting through all of the industry nightmares we've been through. And so, we're just super excited for the Symbiosis chapter for sure.
Yeah, I can well imagine. And as you mentioned, it is the first time you've been independent for a while. What's it like being back doing stuff for yourself rather than having to please the labels, as it were?
We were always so grateful to be on the labels, just like the fact that anyone saw that value in us and as a label artist. And, there's no hate on that side of things, but we are just so excited to have full creative control and just control of everything that we do, everything that we put out and everything that we put out on social media, even not just songs. And so
it's liberating for sure.
It's very liberating, and it just feels very authentic and genuine, everything we do. So I think that's just all a plus.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I'd like to talk a bit about the writing side of things as well. So for you, how do tracks normally start off?
So, going back to Losing You, this first single we dropped, we actually had our first writing camp up in the mountains of California in this place called Big Bear. And we took 4 or 5 days out of the week, and we brought some of our favorite collaborators, producers, engineers, our guitar player, Steph, who has played live shows with us a bunch in the past, our manager and drummer, Roberto. The drums you actually hear on it are they're a cajon drum, which he actually plays live during our acoustic set. And it was our first time getting our live band incorporated into a record, which was very cool.
Yeah, with Losing You.
And we honestly went in with no expectations. We already had a decent amount of the project done, and we wanted to, find those final few songs. And Losing You, I don't want to necessarily give away the names yet, but 3 or 4 songs that are going to be on the project came from that writing camp. And this one specifically, it started with a guitar lick that Steph, our guitar player, had sent us a voice note while he was traveling up to Big Bear. He's like, I don't know if you guys want to start toying around with this guitar loop or this guitar lick idea, this progression, and we loved it. And so we had him track it properly once he got there on the second day. And then I feel like it kind of just evoked the lyrical content just by like the feel of what the guitar loop brought, that Steph created. And
but I feel like it varies from song to song for us.
sure.
We just kind of, go based on vibes, and if we're feeling something, we'll just start. We kind of just
I will say
we get on the mic and we kind of just
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
spitball melodies, and then once we have melodies, we kind of are like, oh, we really like this melody. Like, let's see where it fits in the song, and then we kind of go from there to nail down a concept of what the song is about or what we're feeling that day, and then lyrics are kind of the last thing that come.
Yeah, we always feel like the first thing that sort of elicits a response, you want to get that on the microphone before you think about it too much, in terms of like, the melodic pathways that we choose to take. And so we always just will, all right, G will do a take, maybe 2 takes, and then we'll just see what we like from that. And then I'll hop on there and I'll do a couple takes more in my vibe. And then we were with these writers, Chris and Ben, and we would let them hop on the mic and see if anything came from them. And then we kind of make this little cesspool of melodies, and then we kind of figure out where we want to go and what feels like, okay, this could be a great opening verse vibe. I love what you did there in this one section. Mm-hmm. And then we'll pick that out, we'll place it there, and then we'll start harping on that section to find the actual lyrics. But it's a very collaborative process, and that's what's great about working with people that you're close with and that you trust, and as opposed to being just thrown in the room with writers, how we kind of were on the label. And a lot of them were great, a lot of these writers that we were just chucked into rooms with. But I think having like close collaborators that you already have a rapport with, and you can just like talk openly and freely, and there's no like introductions that are taking place on the same day you're trying to write a hit, I think it makes it a much more just natural process for us. And so, yeah, it's been just like, it feels like it's the most us that it's ever been, which we're just very grateful for.
Yeah, good. And touching on the lyrics as well, how easy do you find it to create the lyrics to the music and the melodies you've created?
I mean, sometimes they come so quickly, sometimes you don't even have to think that hard about it, or like something that G will sing in a freestyle. It's like, oh, you kind of said something there, and we already feel like that could be a good, base to go off of, like whatever you said in that line.
That's always the nicest when it comes out just in a freestyle, because then you don't have to put the effort in trying to nail down the exact syllables and the exact words. It's just like a free flow of thought, that you just are able to capture, and it ends up being a great song.
But other records on the flip side, take a lot more time. We'll be harping on a certain section for hours, and then we'll have to step away from it because we don't feel like we've quite had it. So, it definitely is on a song-to-song basis. But I feel like with our process and the people we've been working with, we try not to put like time constraints on things. There doesn't feel like it's the pressure of, oh, you have this room booked for like a 6-hour session, and then you have to leave, and like we only have it for this one little chunk of time, this window of time. We've just been working like, in our homies' home studios, and like at our house, me and G will come over and we'll just record on something we made or produced in the studio like earlier that week. And so we like to not have a pressure-filled situation, and I feel like that's when the best stuff tends to come out,
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about collaborating, obviously in the writing studio, but you've been featured on a lot of artists' tracks as well. I think the biggest is obviously Jonas Blue, but you've done many others as well. How do these kind of artist collaborations come about?
Yeah, well, with Jonas, we were, that's one thing we were grateful for the label for, because they had the relationship with Jonas's label. I'm not sure which he was on at that time, but then the higher ups just had relationships with each other, like his manager or his agent, or maybe it was his A&R and our A&R. And we were kind of completely out of the loop on that relationship actually coming together. But obviously, once we got in the room with Jonas, we hit it off immediately. That's still one of our really good friends. And we talked, just brought us to Japan last April. So we're so grateful for him. But in general, I feel like collaborations come in the industry more from those kinds of relationships, like, a label doing a favor for another label, or maybe it's 2 artists reaching out to their team and saying, hey, I really want to work with that artist, and they make it happen. But when you're independent, I mean, it's all about just
relationships,
genuine, connection, I think.
Yeah, like the few features we had on our last project, those were just like some of our best friends from our hometown who also happen to make music. And, we never, I feel like we always want them to come about in the most natural way possible. So like on the Jonas side of things, that one was a bit more contrived in a sense, but we ended up forming a very close relationship with him, and that song definitely opened a lot of doorways for us. And so I think in the kind of state we're in now, we were talking about, since we went over to Japan, potentially doing some sort of Japanese or Korean remix of one of our songs, which we're kind of in the works of like reaching out to some people now. But yeah, it's really just a matter of, team connections, and then us just working with the people that we naturally already have a rapport with and are comfortable with. And so we always want the features to feel as natural as possible. But if they come about in a way and we're like, oh, this song feels like it could be big, or this feels like a cool opportunity that we shouldn't pass up, we would never, shy away from that at the same time. So
yeah, I'm sure. You're currently mid-tour. You've done some UK dates so far. How have those been?
I mean, they've been amazing.
Phenomenal.
And honestly, like every night has just gotten better and better. And I feel bad because we started in Dublin. I don't want anyone to think that doesn't mean
Dublin was great.
Yeah, like love Dublin. We love Dublin. It was a great show. But then Birmingham was just amazing. And then Manchester was like insane. And then last night in London, it was just unreal. So
the cherry on top.
Yeah, sure. Like every single show has been so much fun. And we've enjoyed every song that we've performed, every minute of every single concert.
And we were like, it's been 6 years, are they still going to show out? Are they still going to be singing the songs the same way they were? And it's crazy because it seems like, in a weird sense, being away for that long, like makes the people coming to the shows that much more grateful that we're finally back.
Yeah.
And so there's this little like uptick in energy that we honestly didn't expect. And yeah, I mean, the London show last night was a great way to end the UK dates. And we're already talking with our agents about, getting something planned for 2026. So very exciting stuff.
Yeah, nice. You've still got a couple of weeks left across Europe, but there's not much else booked in the diary. What is your plans for the rest of this year?
Yeah, so we finished booking our North American tour. I guess it's more of just a United States tour because we're not going to Canada or Mexico, but we're going across the United States in the fall, which we're going to release our dates officially, I think right after.
I think end of this month or early May.
We don't have an exact date on when we're releasing, but we're excited to get those on sale, and we're super excited to go back to the U.S. because that's our hometown. That's not our hometown, our home market though, and it's a place we love touring, and we love seeing our U.S. fans. And they showed out last year on the No Place Like Home tour, so we're really excited to get back. We're doing slightly larger venues there, which is gonna be awesome. And then
definitely trying to get over to Asia this year for a small run. Asia, Australia,
and even
potentially Latin America too. We have not been there in about 9-10 years, so we always get a lot of come to Brazil, come to Argentina, come to Chile. Some of these places we were at years ago, and so we definitely want to make it up to them after being away for so long. And then in the midst of all that, just the music with Symbiosis.
Yeah,
we're dropping a single every 5 to 7 weeks. That's kind of our game plan. And just to keep having them fuel each other, so they can see like where it started, and then like we the whole plan is just for us to give each single enough time to properly breathe, to properly promote it, and then have it all unveil right around when the US tour is supposed to kick off in September. And so really just like locking in those final records, making sure there's no stone left unturned in terms of the production, the final background vocals, the little amendments we need to make when we get off the road here, and just trying to get that project a ribbon tied on it. And so that's kind of the short-term goal for the rest of 2025 for sure.
Yeah, nice. Is there anywhere you've not been to yet that you want to get to at some point?
I mean, we definitely want to go over to China. That's one that I know is like almost at the top of our list. China, Japan, Korea would be great. And
I want to do more Latin American markets. I know we went back in 2015. We did, I think, Brazil, Argentina, and Chile. And so we've still never done any shows in Mexico, which I know we have a solid market there.
That's crazy. We've never done Mexico.
The Philippines seems to be like one of our top streaming areas as well.
There's a lot of Asian markets that like we're dying to get to, and they do really well for us on Spotify and Apple Music and all these streaming platforms. So
anywhere they'll have us, anywhere people will show up, we are dying to get there. So it just feels good to get back on the road after such a long time off.
And hope you enjoyed the interview there with Jack and Jack. Now, we are all over social media, so come and find us at The Sound Lab Yes on all the socials, and you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. Now, while you go and follow us on all those socials and check out the website, we're going to play you our next interview from Mike Batt, who you will know as a singer-songwriter of the likes of The Wombles, Phantom of the Opera, and Bright Eyes. But we had a little chat with him about what he's up to right now. Mike Batt, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Jim. Nice to be here.
Yes, and you too. And the reason we're having a little chat is because you've teamed up with Justin Hayward once again for Life in a Northern Town. Tell us a bit about the track.
Well, this, I'm sure a lot of your listeners and viewers and whatever won't even remember it because I can't remember how many years ago it was, but it's got to be I think it's late 80s, probably. I don't know. You probably know better than I do. But I remember it coming out by Dream Academy, the song. And I hate always to try and remember, I should remember it off by heart, but it's Nick Laird Clowns or Loud Clad Clown. Nick Laird Clowes, I think, is the way you say it. That's how it's a double barrel name. That's who wrote it. And apologies, huge apologies to him if he's listening. But with Gilbert somebody, and I'm really, really sorry. I should have done my homework better, but that's who wrote it. And I hate it when people don't credit the songwriters, but at least if I credit them and get their name slightly wrong, I suppose it's easier for me with a name like Bat. You can't get that wrong, really, you know. But anyway, Nick and Gilbert wrote a great song, and it's called Life in a Northern Town, and it's about exactly that. In fact, it focuses on 1963. It wasn't written in 1963. It's a nostalgic look back to that period. So that's it. That's what the song is. Why did we do it? Well, Justin and I made an album in the late 80s called Classic Blue with the London Philharmonic Orchestra. And what we did there was we made a list of all the songs that we loved that we would love for him to sing and me arrange, and I would do backing vocals. And we booked an orchestra at Abbey Road Studio #1, a big symphony orchestra. And I got set to doing all these songs. And our rule at the time was let's choose things that no one would dare cover, like Stairway to Heaven and things like that, that everyone would go, oh my God, you know, if we did it anywhere near the original. But we did them very, of course, separately, differently, because it was a symphonic version with no rhythm section, no drums, no guitars, no piano. And so you get lots of space for the voice on the record and lots of space for the orchestra to be heard as well. So it's a really nice combination.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've just looked up the track as well. It was written by Gilbert Gabriel and Nick Laird Clowes. So we've got their names right for that one.
How do you say this last Laird what? Cloud?
Laird Clowes. So LAIRD.
Of course.
Dash Clowes, CLO.
I always try to think what the consonant is before the end, and there isn't one, so it's Clowes.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go.
Yeah, and he's quite well known. It's just why it's very well known, in fact. And so why would I not know how? I think I don't know what it is. Call it brain fog.
Yeah, absolutely. It happens to the best of us all the time. And this is kind of a double single release. But I hear there might be some more to come. Is that the plan?
Well, when we did the session, we did 3 songs, which you are allowed to do up to 20 minutes of music by Musicians Union rules, because of course you have to play by the rules. Well, I always have had to. There were days in my younger days when I was about 20 where I'd go into the studio with an orchestra, and I would literally have to, in order to make the budget work, record 6 songs in 3 hours, which meant that the last song was always no time for rehearsal, just put the parts out and take the run through. And that was how fast we used to work in the old days. But to answer your question, we did 3 songs. This is the first one that's come out. It wasn't the one we thought would be the A side, the leading single. But so there's one other that was the lead suspect to start with, that I'm afraid I can't reveal what it is. And then there's another one which is more personal to Justin, which may never come out, or it may come out as well. But we may do some more together. Who knows? If the opportunity arises, I think because obviously it's quite expensive recording with the whole of the London Philharmonic. There's not just the orchestra; it's the hall and the outside broadcast unit and everything. So we would need a record company to climb aboard and say, "Hey guys, love what happened to that first record. Let's do another one."
Yeah, most definitely. And it's not the first time you've worked with Justin either. As you mentioned, you worked with him about 40 years ago. What made you get back together to start kind of releasing more new music together?
I think it was because we've just been friends all this time.
Yeah.
And we're part of a thing called the Sods, which don't switch off your radios or computers, everybody. It's Society of Distinguished Songwriters. And we were just nattering one day, and we keep in touch anyway because we always, we've seen our families grow up, that sort of thing. We met through Sods, and when we were in our 30s, and which was probably in the 30s, but no, it was like 30 years ago. Anyway, so we met, and that's how we first started to do this first album. What should we do? Let's do an album together. Now it was just like, why don't we do something else? And in the end, we just went in and did it. We didn't wait for a record company.
Yeah, fair enough. And as mentioned, you're a songwriter, but you've done loads of stuff like production as well. But you've written for other artists, musicals, soundtracks as well. And I'd like to talk about the songwriting. So, for you, how do tracks normally start off?
Well, the answer is there isn't a normally, really. Um, Sammy Khan had a great answer for that. Well, when they say what comes first, the lyrics or the music, slightly different question. What comes first, the lyrics or the music? And he said, the phone call. In a way, it's the same answer because it's the incentive to write is the opportunity to have it heard. Writing in a vacuum is difficult or more difficult. That's why I admire people who are starting out and they're just setting up writing a collection of songs. They've usually got a band of their own that they're playing it, writing for, so there is an incentive. But sitting on your own in a room just writing songs, hoping that one day someone will take notice, is not the best mental driver for writing. So what I find is that, well, it's easy with a film. Well, relatively easier with a film because they tell you what they want it to be about. So with Bright Eyes, I was being asked to write. It was going to be several songs, but in the end, one song because the producer didn't really want it to turn out sort of Disney schmizny, smoozy, sweet music movie, which it certainly didn't. In fact, I think it's quite a brutal film. But Bright Eyes was about death. He said, I want you to write a song about death. So I was being instructed by or requested by a director to write a song about death. And I thought, oh, wow, this is so hard. So I went home and I ruminated for a couple of days. And I didn't go straight to the piano. I thought about it and suddenly thought, actually, this is the most important thing we all think about. What happens when you die? So I wrote the song about life, really, Bright Eyes. And when you die, of course, the brightness goes away. And I'd never experienced that with anyone that I knew. But years later, when my dad died, it was exactly that. When I saw him afterwards, I arrived before it happened, and his eyes were sort of dead. Forgive me saying so, but there was no brightness there, no sparkle. And that's why I wrote Bright Eyes. And I've gone off at a tangent telling you all about Bright Eyes, but you asked what is the process? There isn't one. I mean, in that particular case, the quote best scenario did occur, which was I sat down at the piano with the whole idea of what I wanted to write about, but no idea of what it was going to be called or the lyrics I would use or the tune I would create. And my hands just rested on this thing while I sang, is it a kind of dream? And dream. I happened to be sitting at the piano. And I just thought, well, that's interesting. Is it kind of rolling out, floating out, and all that. And then I just came up with bright eyes, burning like fire. And that just happened because in the same way I hadn't then read, but I later read an interview with Paul Simon, who said his best songs come when he's sitting there with his guitar on his knee and he thinks of the lyrics and then thinks of a little tune to go with it. For example, Bridge Over Troubled Water, he'd be just sitting there and going, like a bridge over troubled water. Oh, that's good. I'll write that down. So, or he might have had a tape going. I scribble on manuscript paper when I'm writing. I'm a bit old-fashioned like that. But I find it quicker. Then I can cross out and say I don't like it. Whereas if you've got a tape running, you've got to go back and spool through it and find the good bits. And so that's how I ideally do it. But there are lots and lots of different ways people work, of course, differently. If I was solely a lyricist, I would personally prefer to write the lyrics first, in the way Bernie Taupin does for Elton, because you've got complete freedom. Whereas I find it quite hard if someone sends me a tune to write lyrics for it. I can do it, but I don't prefer to do it because to me a tune has got meaning, and when I'm writing a song, the meaning of the song is already in my head. So that colors the kind of melody I'll write already without any lyrics. Whereas often, I know Andrew Lloyd Webber sends Tim Rice or Don Black the tunes done, and then they write the meaning into it. And even though they're brilliant, I'm thinking, but how did Andrew know that that would come out like that? I mean, he actually sent me of course, we worked together. We talked about working together quite a lot, but we only worked together the once, which was on the song Phantom of the Opera. And he had a tune from, I think it was left over from something else, actually, a different musical. And he gave me a piano version of it. And I went home and wrote, "The Phantom of the Opera is here," and so on over it. So it can be done. It's just not the way I prefer.
Yeah, are you someone who quite likes restraints and kind of direction of where other artists want you to go, or do you want the freedom to do your own thing?
Again, it's both. I enjoy both. It's like saying, do you like sausages and mash or fish and chips? I love them both. So let me see. I do love the constraint and therefore the opportunity, which is a kind of freeing thing. The constraint is of someone telling you, "I would like a song about this." So, and it usually happens when a film director is asking you, because that frees you from the decision of having, in a way, rather than yes, it pins you down to what you've exactly got to do, but it frees you from the agony of what am I going to write about. So in a way, it's restricting and freeing at the same time. So that's good. I also sometimes do that to myself. I was asked by the Hollies in 1980, before any of you guys were born, to write 3 songs for them. It was before I left up to go away on my boat, which I went away for 2 years on a boat around the world, which everyone can read about if they buy my book, which is called The Closest Thing to Crazy. Ta-da! Anyway, so the last thing I did before I left in 1980 was to sit at the piano and think, wow, I've got to write these songs, and I haven't got long to write them. So I thought to myself, I'll pretend I'm a film director. So I had this little conversation. I had a word with myself, and I said, right, I'm the film director, and I'm saying we're going to do this film about the Battle of Waterloo or some such, costumed drama battle. There's a story about his young lieutenant going out to join his brigade. He's never been to battle before, and he meets this lady. So I came up with this story, and I just wrote Soldier's Song, which I still perform in concert to this day. I don't do many concerts. I'd quite like to do more. If there's any promoters listening, give us a call. And but I probably will do a few more. But anyway, the thing is, I did that with a big orchestra again, funnily enough, and Alan, the only person on the record that's actually 2, Alan Clark's vocal goes with the symphony orchestra, which is the London Symphony Orchestra, I think. And Tony Clark does a fantastic guitar solo on it as well. So that's how that record came together. But it is every different which way. I love also the freedom of just thinking, what shall I write? I'm thinking of doing a solo album soon. And but I can't help myself thinking, I thought I'll write 10. I'll break the habit because I always trying to think of a concept. Like I wrote an album called Tarot Suite, which was all about the tarot cards. Not because I'm into them. I fiddled about with learning to read them a little bit, and in the old days when I was younger and I was more into sort of mystiques and not actually into the occult, but I like the artwork, frankly, on tarot cards. So I wrote a whole album called Tarot Suite, and it did really well in places like, well, not places like Germany, but Germany was one of the biggest territories, Australia, South Africa, pretty much everywhere except the UK, because the UK, the Wombles chasing me. The shadow of the Wombles was running after me, and it frankly it caught me up, and it's never really gone away.
Yeah, I can
So I
well
never
imagine.
became
Yeah, go on.
I never
No, go on.
became a pop star or a rock star in England. I had one quite bubblegummy hit called Summertime City, which was big, but I didn't follow it up by going because I didn't want to carry on doing that kind of music. Nothing wrong with it. I just didn't want to be that particular
Yeah.
person,
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. No, good. No, it's all good. I mean, you touched on the Wombles now. One question I wanted to ask is how did you create the Wombles? Because it's not a normal act, it's a novelty act. So what made you create the Wombles, the music group, in the first place?
Well, I'd started in the business when I was 17, 18, just after A levels. And I'd got signed by Liberty Records, which was fantastic. They'd become United Artists Records, and I became their head of A&R when I was 19, which was stupid of them to appoint me. I mean, why would you do, I had no experience. I didn't even really know what a lease tape deal was or anything like that. But I learned very quickly. I didn't stay there long. That's the only proper job I've actually had. I was there for a year and a half. And then I left because I wanted to spend more time teaching myself arranging and conducting and all that kind of stuff. Just as I'd taught myself to play the piano, and I had done quite a few string arrangements by that time, but I wanted to expand my orchestral knowledge and so on. And I made my living by doing jingles, and it wasn't bad actually. I had this. I wasn't by any means, wealthy. I mean, I was living in a little flat in Earl's Court, where the water would drip down the light switch, the light bulb, and drip off, and we put a bucket underneath it and phone the landlord in the morning. So I'm not pleading poverty, but it certainly wasn't wealth. But anyway, how I made my money was by doing jingles, and this lady rang me up, who was my agent. Excuse me. She was my agent for doing jingles, and she said, "There's this thing called the Wombles they're making for the BBC, and would you like to go and talk to them?" So I did, and I saw them making this stop frame animation thing. The puppets like 8 inches high, and it was already in production. Excuse me. It was already in production, and I said to them, "Look, why don't I try writing a song instead of a tune? Because a song would give it more flavor and color, and little kids would then know what the Wombles were, without even seeing the TV series." So they said, "Oh, that sounds like an idea. Try that." So I did. I went back. I lived on a houseboat at the time in West Byfleet, and I went back and sat at my little piano on the houseboat, and I wrote this. I came up with a bit like that Paul Simon story. I came up with it. The words fell out of my mouth at the same time as the tune. Da, 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 oh, underground, overground, and that was what they liked. And when they said to me, "Well, we're thinking what sort of fee you might like," I don't know how I had this conversation because I had an agent who should have been having it really.
Yeah.
He said, "What do you think? 200 quid?" Which in those days was like 2,000 quid, because it's back in 1980, no, 1971 or two because Wombles came out in 74 and 5. So it'd be about 1970. I think it was 72 when I wrote the song. And I said, you know what? And I couldn't afford to say this, but I said it anyway. I said, instead of giving me the two, because frankly, the position at the bank wasn't great. And I had these sort of embarrassing meetings with a very, very tolerant and lovely bank manager. I remember his name. He was called Charlie. And, I could imagine the embarrassing meeting with Charlie next time. He said, "What? You didn't take the fee? You could have paid off your overdraft." Anyway, I said, "Look, don't pay me 200 quid. Just give me the rights to the characters for musical purposes." None of us knew I was going to make a band out of it. We just thought I was going to make a record and put it out. And then I made the record myself. And in those days, when you made a record, if you wanted an extra, say, 2 violins in your string section, it meant you couldn't have a washing machine that month. It was like that. And I carried it around various record companies, and no one was that interested. Then the thing came out on telly, and there I was with my Womble record, and I went to CBS Records with it, sort of last call before I jump off the end of the pier type of thing. And he said, "Oh, let me just play it to my kid at home and see, and I'll let you know tomorrow." It was Dan Loggins, who was the brother of a well-known American singer called Kenny Loggins. Anyway, so he rang me the next day and said, "My kid loves it, so you've got a deal." And I got 500 quid for it, which was more than I paid to make it. Just about a little bit more than I paid to make it.
And it's still going to this day. So
yeah, well, I mean, the funnier story, which I don't want to overstay my welcome here, but the funnier story is that I couldn't get in to see the marketing man, who was very ultra cool, mate of John Peel, all that. I was just the bloke that wrote this Womble song and brought it in and got 500 quid for it. So I couldn't get in to see him at all. And so I rang my mum, who had always been fantastic at making fancy dress outfits and whatever when we were kids. And I said, "Mum, could you make me a Womble costume?" To which she said, "What's a Womble costume?" I described it and sent her a little picture. And only a few days later, she'd run me up the first ever Womble costume. And I put it on. I went to the offices. I didn't know who I was going to go and see, but I didn't go and see the marketing bloke. I saw this sign to senior management, which is on the top floor. So I went up, and I went up to the secretary of the managing director. His name was Dick Asher. And I said, "Is Mr. Asher in?" Wearing the Womble costume. And she was like, I don't know what she thought. She must have thought maybe the best she might have thought was maybe it was one of his bosses from America playing a joke on him or something. Anyway, he came out of his office and was like laughing and really enjoying it. And we got everyone in from the whole company. We had photographs taken, and suddenly they had an artist. That's what I'd figured out, that they need an artist so they can say, "I worked with that artist. I had lunch with that artist." Not that I ever had lunch with any of them wearing their costume, but that's how we got them off the ground.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Mike Batt. Now, here on Spotify, we also have a Spotify playlist called Fresh, where we bring you 150 brand new, up-and-coming, unsigned artists that we think you will love and enjoy. You might just find your new favourite artist on there, so you can go and find a link on our website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk, and follow the Fresh link. Now, let's go forward and play our new interview from Katlia, who's just released a brand new record, and we had a little chat with her about that. Katlia, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jim?
Not too bad. Thanks so much. So, we've been playing a new single of yours called Why Them. Tell us a bit about the single, first of all.
So, Why Them is actually the second song on my recently released album, Language Barrier. And it is the story, or I guess the beginning of the story, basically, of the story of language barrier, where I'm talking about being in this relationship and why am I in this relationship. The story behind why I actually wrote the song is that a friend of mine texted me and said, I don't want you to answer. I don't want to know what you have to say about it. I'm just going to say the question and I want us to move on. And then they texted me the phrase, why them? And so, because I couldn't respond over text, obviously I screenshotted it, put it in my notes app, and then wrote a whole song about it. Um, and so I'm basically like acknowledging throughout the song. I mean, the very first line it is I don't make good choices, I avoid them like the plague. The whole song is me saying, I know that this isn't good. I know that I'm not happy. I know that I should probably be with someone else or take time for myself, but I'm coming to terms with that as the song goes on. And so it's the beginning basically of the story of what I was going through at that point in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And that is off your debut record, which you mentioned, Language Barrier, which is out now. For those who've not had a chance to take a listen, tell us a bit about the record.
The Language Barrier is, like you said, my debut album, and it is a concept album about a relationship that I went through and the way that I was feeling at the time. Um, at that point in my life, I felt like it was very hard for me to communicate with others. I felt like I didn't really know how to say things in a way where people understood, regardless of what language I was speaking. I just felt like I wasn't being heard, and I felt like I couldn't really understand the people around me. And so I wrote this album about what I was going through and what I was feeling. And over the process of me writing it, recording it, and obviously releasing it, obviously a lot has changed. I've grown a lot since then. And one of the things that's really important that I feel like really encapsulates the whole point of the album is I've realized that a lot of people actually feel very similarly to how I felt while I was writing it. And it's helped me to understand other people as well.
Yeah, I bet. And the sound that you've made with this record, was it the sound you wanted, or is it just how it turned out in the end?
It is definitely the sound I was hoping for. Although I will say I don't really aim for a genre or anything like that when I start writing a song or making a record. I just want each song to be the best version of itself to what I have in my head, what I'm picturing. So honestly, if the whole album ended up being polka or something, as long as that's what's best for the songs, then that would have been perfectly fine with me. But yeah, I think we really achieved the perfect blend of indie pop, indie rock, singer songwriter, and experimental. What the heck? Especially with the first song, "Welcome to the Show." That is what I can only describe as like circus horror pop or circus horror rock, which is not a very common genre. Obviously, it sounds like something you'd see in your Spotify Wrapped, but
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you wrote more than what made it onto this record. What happens to those now? Are you going to consider them next time around, or do you think you'll just start again?
Well, the thing is, I write something every day, whether it's a full song or just a chorus or even just a line. I got very good advice from one of my singing instructors when I was a young teenager to just write something every single day. And if you don't like it, fine, still keep it, just keep the recording or whatever, and maybe you'll come back to it later and do something with it. Or if you love it, then you have something that you can work with. So, I mean, realistically, by the end of a year, I have 365, uh, give or take one day, depending on the year, snippets of songs or songs, full songs that I can work with. And so, some of those are winners and I love them. And that's how I ended up with the album. And some of them are like, oh, wow, no one would write that on purpose. I don't know what was happening that day. But yes, the short answer is I have a lot of songs that I've written before, songs that I've been writing since, that I am working on recording as we speak, actually. I'm planning on going back to Barcelona soon to record my next EP, actually.
Nice. How's the new EP sounding?
It's very intense so far. It's supposed to sort of continue the story of my life. So Language Barrier is a very specific point in my life. And what's following after it is this next very specific part of my life. But I feel like I'm really capturing the feelings of what I'm trying to articulate. And I feel like a lot of people will resonate with it as well. I'm just in the process of finding that balance between, I'm sharing my feelings and, whew, this is a bit heavy. But it all comes into this full story that I'm trying to create. So fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned about the little snippets of things you have throughout the year that you can piece together. How do you take those little snippets and turn it into a song?
So what usually will happen is I'll just be, walking to my car or walking down the street, or I'll witness something happen and I'll get an idea in my head, or I'm literally like folding laundry or something and I just have an idea, or I specifically sit down and try to record something, like with a guitar or piano or whatever. And when that happens, if I don't feel like I can expand on it more, I'll just let it sit. I'll put it away. I'll like keep it in the back burner for a while. And then if my brain permits, if I don't completely forget about it, eventually I will come back to it and go, okay, this is something I can expand on later, or not ready yet. That's actually what happened with the second to last song on the album, Language Barrier, with Bones. It's the title song of my EP that came out before. I made that song, I made half of a song months and months before I went to Barcelona to finish recording Language Barrier, and it wasn't supposed to be on the album. And I go to Barcelona and I play it for my producer and my other guitarist. I have two, but my guitarist Oscar Garcia Bragazo, who also helps me to work on my songs. He listens to my songs and goes, "That's great," or "Why are you? What's going on here?" But I played it for them, and they listened to what I had, and they both looked at each other and looked back at me and were like, "Why is that not on the album? Like that needs to be on the album. It's literally the story of what we just told with everything else here." That happens every once in a while, where I'll stumble across something again, simply because I decide to go through my notes or my voice memos, or someone goes, "What other songs do you have?" And I just stumble across something and I go, "Oh yeah, that was actually something I was pretty proud of," and then it ends up being part of a bigger project.
Yeah, nice, nice. And I'm sure your fans will want to see you doing some live shows. What's your plans?
Oh gosh. So I just had a show at Dingwalls actually, but I can't say whether I have any upcoming shows immediately. Nothing's confirmed. But if you go to my website, which is catleacreates.com, that's CATLEACREATES.com, it will you'll have, first of all, access to everything on my social media, my music, my merch, all of that. But you'll also be able to see any upcoming shows that are confirmed as the weeks go on, because we're definitely working on some stuff.
Is there anywhere you want to play that you've not played before?
I mean, there's a million places. There's so many places. I think realistically, my next big goal is the Electric Ballroom in Camden. That would be lovely. Pie in the Sky, Wembley.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Cat Leah to talk about her new record and much, much more. Now, if you want to listen to the interviews on today's show alongside music of theirs, plus loads more music and a live session, then we also have a 2-hour international radio show that might just take your fancy. We've edited these interviews down into bite-sized chunks, and you can listen to them alongside their new music too. Link to our international radio show on our website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. Now, while you go and check that out, we're going to play you our final new interview from Cole Gerard. He's been releasing music very slowly at the moment, and he's got more to come. So, Cole Gerard, how are you?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Thanks so much. So we've been playing a new single of yours called The Way I Feel. Tell us a bit about the single.
Well, actually, the song was written quite a few years ago, but it was basically, I think, really, it's tantamount the same for today. I mean, sort of the lines about in the song saying, what's the use of going out protesting for the people when you haven't got a clue at all? Which I find a lot these days. All the protesters are very passionate and have a lot of feelings, but have no facts about what they're protesting about. So, which is good. I think they should be more factual and really understand what they're protesting about. I think the protest would go a lot better. But that aside, the song was originally written about that, and but was written over 10 years ago. So I guess the same, what is old is new today, right? So.
Yeah, absolutely. And is this the start of more new music to come?
Oh yeah, mate. We've done. Well, I stopped doing music for a while. My sort of background was music originally, and then I stopped because I was broke, like all musicians. And went back to work all the dirty, filthy jobs I used to work, and then I started a business of my own. and that did all right. And then about 10 years ago, I was just hitting my 30s, and I said, right, it's time to go back to what I want to do. So I went on my motorcycle, went to Italy, went to film school, started making films. And then luckily about a year and a half ago, went back to music. Somebody took pity on me, a producer named Chris Potter. He used to work with, he's done a few Stones records, and also does all the stuff with the Verve and Richard Ashcroft, the other people. He's just a really, really, really super dude, really lovely guy. And he took pity on me, felt sorry for me, decided to do some tracks. So he did 12 tracks. We're actually going back in the studio again in May to do some more. And we haven't decided yet on an album release date because we're sort of talking to a few record companies at the moment at the same time too. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's talk about the writing side of things, shall we? And tell me, how do the tracks normally start off for you?
Normally music. I'm a really dyed in the wood. I mean, the entire record that we did was all done with musicians. So I'm a really musician fan. As I can see, you've got a guitar in the background there. So hopefully I'm talking to the right person.
I'd like to say yes, but sadly not. But you go on.
Good one. Yeah, usually the music will come first. Sometimes I'll get a kernel of an idea lyric wise. I have to say, lyrics are my hard part for me because I've got so much music, and I tend to write a lot of music, put it aside, and then bring lyrics to it later, which sometimes can be a bit of a mistake because those songs tend to sort of languish into the pot of non-recordable songs that tends to grow year by year. But sometimes I pull something out of the fire, get something that's been sitting there for a long time, put some lyrics to it, and I'm very happy. But normally, like, I would say more than anything, I start with the music first.
And how easy do you find it to write those lyrics and fit them to the music that you've created?
That's the hard part for me. More than anything, because you want to have, you listen to a track sometimes and it's like it's always been there, or the lyrics always been there in a sense in your head, something that's a big track or something. It just sort of goes over and you say that just sounds so great. And what you're looking for a lot of the times, I mean, I have to say, Noel Gallagher one time said, well, lyrics weren't very important to him. He said, but the way they sound in the song is important to me. And I liked that, because sometimes, you don't always write everything that's supposed to have a lot of deep meaning to it. Sometimes it just be a lot of, scat that goes in, and you throw as much of stuff in. But if it sounds great, doesn't really matter, does it?
No, absolutely. As long as the song sounds good, that's all that really matters to most people anyway.
Yeah.
And tell us about when you were in the studio, because I'm sure you get the demos done, but how do you then take it from that demo to the finished track?
Well, Chris is great. He tends to break things down, right? He will start at the core of it, the drum and the bass, and we go from there and build ourselves up, But in the studio, things can change, which is great. A couple of the tracks that we did for the record were just written on the fly. Some of the other songs I'd already written a few years ago, whatever, and brought them up, sort of getting them out of the catalog kind of thing, or my mental catalog of the songs I've got sitting there. But I like to work under pressure a bit. I like being under pressure. I like when someone says to me, "You got to write this song today. It's got to be done today." Then I get it done. But if somebody says to me, "Oh yeah, get it to us in the next month or so," I'll usually leave it to the very last day, write the song the day before. I mean, I sort of did that in school. You had to study for a test, that sort of thing. I studied like 10 minutes before. That's probably why I didn't do very well in school. But there you go. So
No,
my
yeah.
process tends to be, I mean, I like to break down the track and sort of start with the bass and drums, add this and add the layers on top of it bit by bit by bit. And then I can decide what I want to take away and what I want to leave in the track. Because I tend to be I put too much into a track sometimes. And that's what is great about Chris Potter. He knows how to siphon down the track to the point, the parts of the track that that are the most important, that you really need in that track, that sort of thing.
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm sure people want to see you doing some live shows. What's your plan?
Yeah, we're working on that now. Going to get a band together in the next few months. We still haven't decided about the album release date yet because we're talking to some other people. So we're sort of putting that on hold in a sense. I might release a few more singles on top of that, anyways. So I'm looking to start going out and doing some touring come June or July. That's the goal, anyways. But I need to find some people that want to spend some quality time with me.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be a tricky bit, I'm sure.
Well, no, I have to say, you guys were very supportive. I put out a track about 2 years ago called State of Grace, and you guys were super, super supportive of me, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Pleasure's all mine. What I say to most people when they say something like that is it's actually on you. If you write good music, I'm going to play it. So
No, I thought you were going to say piss off. I think.
no. Write good songs, I'm going to play them. So yeah, it's on you really.
Well, do appreciate that, mate.
No, pleasure's all mine. But it'll be festival season as well. When you're planning to do some shows, you hoping to do festivals too?
I could do festivals, yeah. Just put me on there and put a band behind me, and I can do just about anything.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Cole Gerard. Now, this is the part of the show where we like to throw back in time to an interview we did in our early years. Well, we had a chance to go to Download Festival in 2017, where we had the chance to chat to Frank from Sum 41. So we are going to have a little chat with Frank from Download Festival 2017. How are you?
I'm great.
Good.
It's a good day. I mean, any day in the UK is always a good day.
Yeah, so you're here at Download Festival?
Yeah, this is my first time with the band. They did this, I believe, Derek was saying, on the Chuck album in like 2003, 2004.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time. And, you know, just being from the States and seeing all the historic, you know, hearing about Castle Donington and Download, and even we have this music station called Palladia, and they show all the festivals, and I've watched so many iconic bands here. It's pretty mind-blowing to be here and to be closing the second stage.
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
pretty amazing for us.
Yeah, it should be good. Are you sticking around for the weekend, or are you heading
We
off to
leave.
Europe?
Yeah, we leave literally after the show because we have we go to Germany and then Budapest. Then we have festivals in Italy, and then we're actually doing an arena show with Linkin Park, which is pretty amazing.
Excellent.
And then we end in Stockholm, I believe, like on the 22nd, and then we go home for a minute.
Yeah.
So
And then you got a festival in Japan?
we start the Asia in August.
Yeah.
July we have Canadian festivals,
Yeah.
and then we're actually we have the AP Awards, which the band's nominated for 3 awards, which we're gonna go and represent for that, and then I'm actually performing this crazy drum performance for the show. It's myself with the drummer from No Doubt and one more surprise drummer. We're gonna put together this insane drum moment for the show. So when I get home from here, I gotta figure that out and get in rehearsals for that. Put together some crazy 5-minute drum performance. So yeah, we're busy, just touring throughout the year and probably into the next year as well.
Because that's what you're known for, it's just constantly touring.
I love it.
300 gigs a year, isn't it? Something like
Yeah,
that?
I mean, we just did 9 weeks over here, which was amazing, and then we went home to America and did 5 weeks with Pierce the Veil, which was awesome.
Yes, yeah.
So yeah, we've just been busy touring. It's great.
So you released your most recent album last year.
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
It was, for me, you know, just joining the band, it was an amazing thing to be part of, to be writing with the band, to be, you know, watching Derek go through everything he went through, and just for even just putting aside the music, just as a friend, watching him, you know, rebuild and just be better than ever, and watch this record be his therapy and actually save him was just amazing to be part of that. And you know, I lived down the street from him, and he would always, whenever he was feeling good and inspired, he'd be like, come over, we're gonna try miking up drums in my living room today and let's jam. And you know, it was just really cool that I was really fortunate that I lived close enough and I got to be there, you know, and just to watch him come out better than ever, you know.
Definitely.
So it was a very special time. Seeing Dave come back in the band, and then just for me, I was freaking out just being such a fan of the band and friends. You know, they've been friends of mine forever. It was just a really special time, and you know, we actually learned the whole record. So we've been playing all the songs, you know, not obviously in one night, but we'll change the set list because we learned it. We're like, you know, we love the record so much. We're like, fuck it, let's be able to pull out different songs, especially on a 9-week tour, to keep things fresh. We constantly changed. We had like a middle part where we would just constantly change up songs. So it was cool. I've never been in a band where you play a whole record on a tour. So
So
cool.
is that the same today? Another couple of tracks different to what you would have last
yeah, today
played?
we have an hour and 10-minute set. So yeah, we'll be doing, I mean, a little bit of everything. And new shit. I mean, Goddamn I'm Dead Again's been such a great festival song. Kids go nuts, circle pits and double guitar solos and stuff. So that's cool. So it'll be fun.
So I know the album came out last year, but are you guys writing again, or?
I mean, Derek's always writing whenever he feels inspired. You know, he's always got a guitar and recording gear in the hotel room or the bus. but no serious
No.
plans yet. I think we're gonna have to take a break from the road first, so everyone could really focus and all that. But I mean, right now, I mean, the record's not even out for a year yet, so we're still enjoying that, you know, a new record, you know, moments. But you know, it's definitely, I'm sure, on the horizon at some point.
Yeah. So I know you're probably the last person to ask about this, but how does your most recent album compare to the ones back in the day?
I mean, for me, like, let's just take me being a fan before even joining the band. Like, I feel like it's got a lot of everything, you know, in it. But like, it reminds me a lot of the heaviness of Chuck. It's got a lot of the heavy, angsty, you know, serious riff stuff in it that Chuck had, which is one of my favorite records. But I don't know, it's such an emotional roller coaster ride because it's really personal to me, because so many songs mean so much for what he was going through at the moment, or the first thing I heard, you know. And the songs are actually in the same order that they were written, that we recorded them. So it's such a ride for me emotionally to listen to that, just to think back about, you know, I mean, it was like 2 years it took to write that record and record it, because then also we started doing some festivals here and there, and so we had to stop for a little bit, then go back to it. So it was like kind of, we did half and then the other half. But yeah, it's nice to see that, you know, the response has been good. The songs go over great live at the shows, and it's you know, it's been doing very well too. I think in Germany it charted higher than any record in Sum 41 history, which is fucking crazy.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. So is there plans to come back to the UK at any point?
Not as of right now, but I'm sure we'll do one more little blast, hopefully, before this, you know, album cycle's over. We did Brixton Academy last time, which was fucking amazing. I mean, the kids couldn't even like move because it was so packed in there, and just to play such a beautiful, iconic, you know, venue was pretty amazing. And my son, and it has nothing to do with the venue or the city, it was all coincidence, is actually named Brixton. And I had heard about Brixton Academy, but I'd never played there. I didn't know that the town was called Brixton. You know, I didn't know. And then everyone started telling me, and they're like, Bowie's from here, and he actually just passed away. And it was just such a weird coincidence. So it felt special to me, even though it really didn't have anything, you know, just still, it was a special show.
Fantastic. So if people wanted to get hold of your recent album or find out more about you guys, where can they go and do that?
Everywhere possible, on, you know, every social media platform, which is at Sum 41. Our record is available on iTunes. What's the big one over here? Is it Deezer?
Deezer, yeah.
Deezer. You know, Spotify's, all that stuff. And yeah, it's 13 Voices. It's out, and definitely check it out if you haven't.
And I hope you enjoyed the interview there with Frank from Sum 41 from Download Festival 2017. And that's the end of the show for another week. I am afraid, but don't worry, we will be back next week with a new episode of Interviews Unedited. But if you can't wait until then, social media at The Sound Lab, yes, on all the socials. And you can also check out the website, thesoundlabuk.co.uk. And we'll see you next week for another episode of The Sound Lab's podcast Interviews Unedited. Goodbye.